I am really excited to be here. I used to spend a lot of hours about how long were we here ago? 35 years or so as undergrads. I hate to tell on you too, but I need a partner here, Kathy. So I came to OSU about 36 years ago and spent a lot of time studying in here. I promise I really did. I loved the library. I was an English major. What do you do with an English major? Well, you go to work for NASA, I guess. So that's kind of the story that I want to tell you about. Ooh, something increased. Can you hear me better now? So all of you guys some of you are freshmen in the room. Some of you are further along. Some of you are grad students. Some of you are fifth graders and sixth graders. Just know that you never know where life is going to take you and where you might be working when you're 55 years old someday. It may really surprise you. It may be totally out of your comfort zone, and that's sort of what happened to me. I love teaching, and I love working with technology and learning new technologies and seeing what they will do. If you have a gadget and it's digital or electronic, I will want to play with it. And we have a space over in Willard that is just for that very thing. Some of our students here in the room work in that space. It's called the Emerging Technologies and Creativity Research Lab. And these are the students that are co-sponsoring the organization, Educational Media and Technology Student Association, work in that lab. So if you want a fun place to hang out between classes, if you're students or if you just want to come hang out, it's a great place. It has all kinds of emerging technologies. Well, where these technologies have taken me in education is a cooperative agreement with NASA that OSU has had for over 50 years. Did you know that OSU has been working directly with NASA for over 50 years? We have been working with them longer on education projects than the anniversary that we just had. The first man on the moon was 50 years. We've been working with them 52 to engage the next generation of learners into NASA activities. And so it's a very long-standing relationship that I think a lot of people didn't really know. I mean, you guys who have lived around Stillwater, did you know this? I don't think I knew it either until I kind of got involved with it. But it started with a van that they would take around and call it the Space Mobile, and they would take it around to schools, like your school, Grace, and they would stop at your school and they'd have books and materials that you could learn about space. And they took this little van around, and that's how it all started long years ago. So we've carried on that tradition, and it's a very storied tradition among this small group of people at OSU who've worked with NASA. If you go down to Johnson Space Center and say you're from Oklahoma State and wear an OSU sweatshirt, they're going to love you, because what you don't realize is there are about 50 employees who are Oklahoma State employees who work at Johnson Space Center every day on these activities. And there are other employees who are Oklahoma State employees who work on activities at Stennis Space Center in Louisiana, at Armstrong in California, at Goddard in Maryland. We've got some new ones coming on at Marshall in Alabama. So all of these are Oklahoma State positions who are working to raise up the next generation of STEM leaders in NASA activities. But the good part is the activities are really fun. That's what I want to tell you some about the activities. And I think even at your age, at you guys' ages, at all of your ages, there's something to get involved in. NASA has made a huge commitment to community-based science and getting people involved in research, in collecting data. If you go to the nasa.gov, you can find activities for anyone to go out there and help collect data and input it into the whole field that is collecting this data. And being a part of that is so much fun. We have an astronaut who just walked in the room. I'm kidding. Okay, so what I want to do is tell you about the activities, but before I do that, I want to give you an idea of the impact. Now, we went from knowing that there's not very many people around Stillwater who know OSU has a connection to NASA at all. But look at the impact we've had in the last, this is the last 2 years of our cooperative agreement. Our cooperative agreement, it's about 42 million right now and growing, and a cooperative agreement's a little bit different than a grant. We don't get to do whatever we want with the money. We don't get to choose, but we work with our employees that are at all the different space centers to come up with these new ideas, to come up with things. We have a new curriculum for kids your age that uses the Charles Schulz Snoopy characters, and it's really fun, and it's online. You can go to the NASA website and play with it. So we started last year with year one and had 11 activities, and you can see that we reached 48 states and territories and over 63,000 teachers and over 182,000 students, and a lot of work. And so there's about 60 employees, as I mentioned, scattered around the different space centers that do this work, but they're all OSU employees. They all wear orange. Year two, we've grown quite a bit. We have less of a focus on, this was the year of education in space on the International Space Center. I don't know if anyone heard about that. Has anybody watched a downlink? Have you? Okay, great. Some of you have, great. The downlinks are really fun, and that's one of our activities that we do, is we facilitate about 3 downlinks from the International Space Station where you get to video conference directly with the astronauts, and it's fun when you see it once. When you're sitting there watching it 3 times a week, it gets a little old, but I started not watching for a while. But that's an example of one of our activities that reaches a lot of people, and why we're reaching so many 51 states and territories, and things like that. Okay, now, what can you get involved in? If I were you, I'd want to know, how can I play? So, if you are this one's really fun. This one, I'm excited. We're starting this at Meridian Technology Center in Stillwater this year, and at Tulsa Tech Center. Those are the first 2 schools in Oklahoma that we'll have working with this. But this project is called HUNCH. NASA loves their acronyms. If they were here, this would be an acronym for OSU Science Cafe. We'd have to call it OSUSC, because you have to call everything an acronym there. But this one's called HUNCH. And what it is, really, it's a lot more interesting than just the acronym. What this is high school kids. It started as high school kids, and we're moving into community colleges and universities who are building objects that are actually flown to the International Space Station and are sitting there. So right now we have over 1,000 things that were built. You see in this picture, on the table in front of the kid is a locker. It's a storage locker. And so those are being built to the specifications that NASA requires. They're being designed, manufactured, and engineered in high schools, career techs, community colleges all over the United States, and then being sent to the International Space Station. The neat thing is the kids get to sign their name to it. I got to sign one, and I put Go Pokes, so my name's not up there, but Go Pokes is up there. This activity also has a culinary, somebody in here is a chemistry major, you? But anybody a nutrition major? This one's really fun, because the culinary challenge for this is students all over the United States can participate in coming up with a recipe that meets certain nutritional standards and is in the category of what the astronauts are wanting. And they video conference with the astronauts on the Space Center and talk about, here's what we're looking for. You know, your taste buds don't work well in space at all. And so the food that is sent up to them is way over spiced for what we would need. But so that challenge is going to be happening at the Meridian Technology Center in Stillwater, is going to participate in that challenge too. So HUNCH has a variety of activities, largely for high school kids. Some career tech. What are you, college? I thought so, I've seen you. So this one's really exciting. The other aspect of that, did anybody take family and consumer sciences in high school? So we're using family and consumer science classes to sew different bags, anything the astronauts need on the space station that we don't want to use NASA engineers on, we'll send over to HUNCH. And this HUNCH activity, we'll send it out to high school kids. And one of the neatest things, they wanted their own toiletries holder that they were using the Russian astronauts, cosmonauts, toiletries holder, so it said toothpaste, but in Russian language, and our US astronauts wanted their own. And that wasn't something that they wanted to use NASA engineers on, so they sent out this project to these schools and said, come up with a design, here's what we're looking for. They worked through the design, prototyping process with the astronauts and came up with the product, and now it is on the space station with those kids' names on it. So that's the kind of thing we're looking to do even more of. This is just one of our 15 activities. Let's talk a little bit. Has anybody heard of the Space Cowboys here? You are a space cowboy. That's why I've seen you. You've been in this room, haven't you? Well, we'll get you there. Okay, good. So if you've heard of the Space Cowboys, they've been a real successful team, mostly of engineering majors at OSU. I will tell you, for all you guys who are not engineering majors in the room, they need you, because the multidisciplinary teams do so much better in our activities, in our competitions, than a one-dimensional team. So anytime you get multiple disciplines in there, there's an economics kid back there, and all these other people that you can grab in make more effective teams. And that's great news for us out in the world of work, because that's how we work. We work in a very multidisciplinary atmosphere, and we're seeing that work well in the education of these students coming into STEM. I've heard a lot of STEM has traditionally been thought of as science, technology, engineering, and math. But more and more I hear, let's quit talking about those as individual letters. Let's start talking about different types of thinking that engage all different minds, strategic types of thinking that engage minds and things like that. Still use the letter STEM, but don't count yourself out. If you were like me and an English major, I had no idea these people needed me, and they do. What you're seeing in this picture is a team. This isn't our team from OSU, but they have participated in this event before and have gone to Johnson Space Center. This is a pool at Johnson Space Center. I call it a pool. They did not let me swim laps. They will arrest you if you try to swim laps there. But it's about 40 feet deep, and there's a model of the International Space Station at the bottom of it. And the latest thing they're adding to the bottom of this, it's called the Neutral Buoyancy Lab, but they're adding a topographical map of Mars to the very bottom. You know about this. You've been there. Oh, cool. Did you want to swim laps too? Am I the only one who wanted to just jump in? Oh, good, good. Yeah, she does. Yeah, but they work there. One interesting thing about working in this place, and you might have noticed this, one thing I've seen as a change is when you go to a NASA center, it's not just our government people working. They're renting that out to SpaceX and other commercial enterprises. It's become a very commercial type place for other aerospace industries to come in and work too. So it's interesting because you never know who you're going to see there. And that surprised me a little bit. I didn't expect that. But the next challenge that we're sending out is a challenge that students will be challenged, students of all ages will be challenged to design a waterproof robot that can be, that can navigate certain, on this topographical map on the bottom of that 40-foot pool that mimics Mars, and they're actually solving problems. Now, every one of these activities, it's so much fun to get the kids involved in it. And when I say kids, I mean college kids too. They're really kids of all ages. We work a whole lot with university, with undergrads, and community college students, but some with high school and some down into middle school. But that challenge will go out all around the country, and then anybody who wants to join, and you don't have to join through a school, you can join on your own a lot of the activities, and you go through an online learning process. And so all of our activities have extensive online learning on your own. So knowing how to learn online and enjoying learning on your own and is really helpful because that's the start of all our projects. The second wave of most of our projects are then to go to one of the centers. Somebody's been to JPL. Oh, Brandon, we were talking about JPL. So, you might get sent to JPL for a specific activity and be put with a team, and you're working with a team of other students to solve real problems. And a lot of these solutions that come from students are really being used. That's the exciting thing to me about being a teacher and giving you those authentic experiences I probably wouldn't have lived in the principal's office in high school if I had these authentic, if I knew somebody was counting on me to solve this particular problem. So microgravity is one of our activities that people at OSU have participated in, and I would love to see some more disciplinary teams coming out of here for this particular activity. The STEM on Station has been a lot of fun. This is the one that you're seeing I mentioned the downlinks, and you're seeing this in the picture that here, it looks like Ricky Arnold, that he is talking to this classroom of your age people. Gloria, you're 6th grade? That kid looks about 6th grade, doesn't he? Okay. So that's school, and we do about 3 of these a week that we connect them, and this is tough on the astronauts. I always feel kind of bad talking to them, but they really do love it. But they have about an hour to themselves in every 24 hours. They don't get any more time than that on their own. Every 23 hours of their day is scripted, and so for them to be on all the time and to be running from doing this experiment to, Ricky Arnold was especially important to education in the experiments because he took the experiments that Krista McAuliffe had developed and he did them in space while he was up there. So that was really cool for a lot of us. So that's one of our projects that touches a lot of people of all ages. You can apply online to have your organization say in this room, we wanted to have a downlink. They would like seeing this room. I think we ought to do that. Whitney, make that happen. We can have a downlink, and but whatever organization wants it, you just fill out the forms online and your school may do it. We did it with all the 4th graders in Stillwater a few years ago. So this is a fun activity. I'll talk about suits a minute. Brandon, this is the one I mentioned to you. Brandon's a computer science student. Thomas, what's your major? But finance, but you're interested in these things. Now, here's the important thing. If you don't hear me say anything else, is I don't know if I'm just old or dumb or something, or came here in the 80s, but I really thought that my lane was that English degree and I had to stay in it. And it is not true. I ended up in technology. And if you're learning how to think in whatever discipline you are in, you're going to be able to translate that. And in the real world, Brandon and Thomas need to get together and make a team. You'll be on it, won't you? And for this suits competition. So what suits does is really fun. This one's at the undergraduate level right now, but we're bringing this one all the way down to middle school. Just because the computer coding is simple enough now that we might as well have middle schoolers doing it because they're doing it anyway on their own in their own time. So this one is developing augmented reality interfaces within the space helmet. And if you're interested in playing with these things, we have a Microsoft HoloLens over in Willard in the lab I was telling you about that's a developer model, so you can actually do this on that. So feel free to go play with that. These grad students here will hook you up, Wave IO, so they know to come see you. Does anybody have questions so far? One thing that's not happening in Oklahoma at the moment, but we're working really hard to make that happen before Grace and Gloria get up to their junior year in high school, is our high school aerospace I clicked on the wrong one, is our high school aerospace scholars program. And it is juniors in high school, and right now it's only in Texas. So the juniors in high school get in this online class, they do the online course as a junior. Are you cheering because we're coming to Oklahoma, or did you go to it? Well, get up here and talk about it.
I'm sorry, I just got out of testing, so I walked in.
This is my very dear friend and co-speaker. Wait, what's your name?
Annie.
Annie. This is my very dear friend and co-speaker, Annie. Annie was a high school aerospace scholar. How long ago were you?
Well, I'm a freshman this year. So
Oh,
just 2 years
good.
ago.
2 years ago then. Great. Okay, was it the best experience you ever had?
Oh, it's the coolest thing ever.
Wait,
Like,
say it
almost
louder
in-
into the
okay.
microphone.
It is the coolest thing ever.
Okay, got it. Got it on tape. It is the coolest thing ever. Unfortunately, it's only been for Texas students, and I need it for you two to go because it would be really fun. So what Annie did is she was in an online course in her junior year, and did you get your science credit through Texas?
Some schools allowed it, some schools
Yeah, and so some of them can get their one science credit in the high school for taking this online course, and it's OSU employees who are her teachers while she's in this online course, and then she goes on and has a week at Johnson Space Center. If you make the cut, you got to finish the class and do well in the class, which is how most of our activities are set up, is we're doing a lot of what we hope is very quality online learning that students get engaged with, and then we take them to the next level at one of the centers, whether they're a junior in high school or a college junior or a fifth grade or whatever. We're working at franchising this model so other states can use it the same way. So our plan is to get that started in Oklahoma in the next few years. There's so much aerospace industry in Oklahoma right now. I don't know if you've researched that. Haley, you may have. But I heard from the OSU Tulsa president, Dr. Fry, the other day that there are 5 new aerospace industries coming into Tulsa just in the next couple of years. And that makes a big difference in you guys who are here finishing your degree during that time and what you may want to do with it. And you may not be, just because it's an aerospace industry company doesn't mean they don't need a chemist, and it doesn't mean they don't need an economist. Are you hiding from me back there? Yes, you are. My little economist is hiding. So I think we're going to see that impact of the aerospace industry across all majors and all things you want to do. The NASA Community College Aerospace Scholars, this is one model that we have been able to franchise. It is much, Annie, just like what you did, except if you were a Tulsa Community College student or a community college student anywhere, you would have done the same thing, participated in the online course, and then when you finished it, be invited to come to one of the space centers. We tended to do that at 4 different space centers. We've been able to franchise this model, so now we're having these competitions local at different community colleges, so it's spreading nationwide. And that's what we're hoping to do with a lot of these activities. Instead of just having Annie being the only person in this room who had a chance of participating in high school aerospace scholars, if we can franchise these activities and have them happen in lots of different places, that's going to be more exciting. So that's a lot of where we're going with this right now. I am really tired of talking. Who else wants to talk or ask questions?
Talk a little bit about the franchising process.
Yes, that's interesting. That's a good question. And this is where that multidisciplinary thing comes in, because we're talking about educational activities, but when we're sitting around the table, we talk about it like it's McDonald's. Like here, you're not going to paint the arches purple. They're going to be golden. It's, so what we're doing, if we're going to put NASA's stamp on it and Oklahoma State University's stamp on it, we're going to design the curriculum in such a way that it's flexible enough that it can go to whichever one we want. And then what we're doing is hiring people like you, if you'd ever graduate, just kidding, to go out and coach these community college instructors on implementing the curriculum. So, and that will give us the quality assurance. And that's pretty much the same model that McDonald's or somebody would use. You know, you have your train the trainer kind of model and get the curriculum out there. So it's a lot of work to get people sold on the idea. Lots of college presidents will say, oh yes, we want to do this, we want to participate. And they forgot to tell the faculty who are actually going to have to do the work that yes, we're going to do it. We have lots of good partners all around that are doing it. We're really trying to hit HBCUs and minority serving institutions more. We need more diversity in this area. In every one of the space centers I walk through, it's really obvious. We need more diversity in this field. Yes? You are STEM. Well, I will argue that all of you are STEM. I will sit here and argue with you for a long time about that. What's your major?
I'm undecided.
See, you're STEM. I was at a conference this summer that they were trying real hard not to use S for science, T for technology, for engineering, and there's been a whole movement in the field to realize that we're teaching ways of thinking. That when Annie was going through the Haas curriculum, she was doing some sciencey stuff, but a lot of it was designing, prototyping, ton of writing, and so we're seeing that. But to answer your question of how to get involved, my card's back there on the table, but these activities, there's another card that all of you would probably like this. There's a white card that has links to all the social media accounts and the different activities. And so if you follow those particular social media accounts, you'll see these activities. There are a lot of faculty on campus too. We have a OSU Aerospace listserv of all of us on faculty who are interested, and there's people from every college. From design, housing, merchandising, they've worked closely in designing spacesuits before. And oh gosh, it's just all over the map. It's really not concentrated in one major. We need a clearinghouse for who wants to get involved in the next kind of Space Cowboys type team. I'd like Thomas to be some of these grad students can be a leader for like suits. How many of you did it spark an interest when I talked to you about suits where you're designing the augmented reality for the astronauts? Okay, here's a multidisciplinary team for you right here. This is the way we get those things going. Thomas, get everybody's phone number. Great question. It's interesting to walk into a place, and again, 36 years ago, I was an English major here. And so to walk into one of the space centers and realize that they need what I know too, and that's a really good feeling. I never thought that would happen. I thought, oh, they need engineers, they need scientists, but when you watching has anybody been in mission control? A couple of you. So you know when you're in mission control and you see on the big screen, you see the astronauts, you've got the International Space Station up there, and then at the desk down here, there's a desk for a doctor, and there's a desk for a psychologist, and there's a desk for, I don't know what else, computer scientists. There's a desk, Haley, they've got one with your name on it, just waiting for you. So there's a desk for all these different people, and that's such a good visual of how NASA needs so many different disciplines and how we as disciplines need each other. We were talking a while ago about a games course that we build video games, but educators are taking the same course and they have the content, and I'd love to see more of those multidisciplinary things happen. And there are classes at OSU. Talk to faculty, because a lot of faculty know where those are and what you can do. Doesn't anybody need a cookie? Should we have a cookie break? Yes.
Curious, has OSU sent anyone down on the vomit compensation? Is there a rep there?
I don't know. For you, yes, you should go. If something's named the vomit comet, I do not want a part of it. Is it at Johnson or is that at Armstrong? Okay. Yeah. There's been students who have had payloads experiments that have gone up on out of Ellington, but I don't know if anyone has actually traveled on it. There is a space at Johnson Space Center that they're always looking for volunteers who will stay in this capsule like you're an astronaut, and so a zero gravity capsule, so you're locked in there for 40 days. It just sounds horrible, but some people actually like to do that. I don't know that I would.
Did we get
Kathy?
the agreement 3 years ago, and how have we kept it?
That is a good question, and that's a really good question. I'm not sure. Ken Wiggins was the professor who was originally involved with getting that going, and then we've had science educator Steve Marks is a professor who worked with this project for years and years. It's a competitive bidding process. So every 5 years we go through the competitive bidding process, and OSU is a minority serving institutions for American Indians and Native Alaskans, and so that makes us eligible to be a lead. On this particular 5-year cooperative agreement, the 13 campus Texas A&M system is one of our partners, and Langston University, and Northern Oklahoma College, and the Center for Sovereign Nations here at, does anybody hang out at the Center for Sovereign Nations? They have a vested interest in a lot of kids participating in these activities. I'm forgetting one. 4-H too is one of our partners, and so we'll be writing again for the cooperative agreement. I think one of the reasons OSU has had it is just our personnel. We have a staff over in Scott Hall that they're phenomenal. We had to build our own financial system and build our own security systems. We work with IT on that, but we have to have our own because we have to meet NASA's security standards. And so we have a lot of employees right here on campus, plus all the employees out at the different centers. And I think that helps us. I think that helps us keep the agreement. Is they know that they can trust us, and we'll do a good job on those things. Hopefully, knock on plastic or something. I'll tell you in 3 years. We just finished our 2nd year of this 5-year agreement. So, well, if no one has any more questions, oh, good, you do, because then we'd have to eat cookies. Go ahead. I would love to have Peggy Whitson. We actually had John Harrington in the fall. When was that, Haley? Bless her heart. Haley's one of our star students. She can tell you how to get headline speakers for no money. So we did have, John came and talked and told a lot of great astronaut stories but Peggy Whitson would be great too. Oklahoma has such a rich history of astronauts. If you come over to Scott Hall on the 2nd floor, that's where our NASA offices are. We have portraits of all of the Oklahoma astronauts, and it's amazing when you look at the connections and ties that not only Oklahoma has, but Oklahoma State in particular has with NASA and Aerospace. It's pretty exciting. Peggy would be great. What was your question?
So
Yes, Burns Flat.
Hasn't been used for about 10 years for anything space related. So have you all thought about maybe getting, any kind of STEM project involved in those things there?
You know, that did come up when we were talking about, I've been trying to get people interested in the high school aerospace scholars in particular, and Burns Flat came up as what's still there that we could, and I think finances are a lot. My economist friend, yes, we were just talking about how important this is, because a lot of the reason that it's just the economic impact of trying to make something like that go for commercial space travel is overwhelming. And so, but I'm not sure what's still down there, but we have talked about that. I feel like there's enough aerospace industry and interesting places that even kids like you who don't think they're STEM people, that if we would take you around the state of Oklahoma, you'd be shocked what's going on and how exciting it is. I didn't mean to pick on you.
They have a big contract with the DOD to use the runway, so they
It's being used.
to
Good.
keep using it, but a lot of the buildings are starting to go into disrepair. They've already had to tear down a few of the older warehouses and stuff that was there during
Oh, yeah, the heyday.
Naval Station days.
And a lot of those companies are going straight to NASA space centers and renting their space and equipment because it's ready to go. Okay, what did I not tell you that you came here to hear about? Anybody? You came just for the cookies?
What would be some key things a person should get involved in if you wanted to eventually work for NASA or own your own aerospace company?
Perfect question, Kathy. A lot of our kids, like Annie, have come up through an opportunity at a younger age, and when she was at Johnson, I guarantee you Stacy Welch or somebody, some of my people, talked to you about, okay, here's what's next. We get you into the Pathways program, and then we get you into the internship program, Brandon, like you're looking at. The internship programs, they really want to keep you, get you in at an early stage in an internship or one of the activities like this, and then keep you. And just because you're not an engineering major or a math major or physics major, they take as many education, communication, economics, other majors. It's surprising. Those interns are very valuable down there at all different levels. And the internships, I can help you with that. Take my card, or on the nasa.gov website, you can apply for different internships at different levels, different centers. So that's probably, the activities are probably phase one. Find an activity that fits your age group and your interests. Try and see it. This is exactly, Kathy, what I wish I would have done as an English major undergraduate, is taking a risk, like stepping out there and say, hey, I don't know anything about this space stuff, let me check it out. And instead, I kind of stayed in my own lane, and that is really not the way to play the game anymore. Really being much more diversified and realizing that the disciplinary silos that we sort of force you into are artificial, and that's not really how the world works. So trying those other things. Thomas is a finance major, but he's worked for a tech startup doing augmented reality this summer. And so thing diversifying like that, I think, puts you at a huge advantage. And that wasn't true 20, 30, I've got to quit telling our age. But when we were undergrads, that was not true. It was much more regimented. So I would say get involved in lots of different things. Just your question is perfect. How do I get on one of these teams to do one of these activities? We need like a club. Is there some sort of club for you, survivors of NASA education activities?
I have no idea. I showed up looking for one.
We'll make you a president. We should have one. We'll do something like that, because then it could be multidisciplinary and we could get lots of different. You're right.
I'm not saying high school, nothing.
Right.
Oh, if it helps, I was the first person from my school district to ever attempt it.
And it's hard. I've worked on that online class, and it's not easy.
Probably one of the best things I've ever done because it's the first thing that a deadline was a deadline, and that was that. Every school assignment, if you had a good enough excuse, you would let by. Nope, deadline was a deadline, and that was great.
It's much more how the real world works. Yeah. Whitney, save me. Do we have any more? Yam, were you going to say something? No. Any more questions? We'll hang around and we can talk informally. I do have some handouts on the, there are specific activities, the MicroGeneX and Suits activities. For you guys who are undergrads, I would highly recommend picking one of those up. There's small white cards that have the social media accounts to connect with, and I would recommend everybody picking some of those up. You've got one? Yeah, it looks like this. But this gets you connected to information that's coming down the pike all the time about different activities. Now, what I've talked to you about tonight and what OSU is involved in is running 15 different educational activities, but there's so many other ones going on beyond these 15 that I haven't even touched on. So don't hesitate to look for all of them, not just ours. There's another one it's an education yearbook that talks about everything we did last year, everything that was education related coming out of NASA last year that may be interesting to some of you. But I would love to visit with any of you if you have other questions that are too embarrassing to ask in front of the whole crowd. I'm joking. Okay, thank you very much for coming. I hope it was worth your time.